Thank you for taking the next step on your journey towards becoming a really effective advocate for nature's rights. I'm Mamta Ito, UK lawyer and founder of the organisation Nature's Rights, and today I'm really excited to walk you through the Integrated Rights Framework, a legal framework that I created for a regenerative society where all life can thrive. In this video, you will gain a thorough understanding of the framework, why we need it now, and how it works at the highest point of leverage to unite and drive the whole of our society to scale up regeneration. So let's dive in. The Integrated Rights Framework is designed to bring about systemic change. It unites the planetary boundaries and the UN Sustainable Development Goals with a nested hierarchy of rights, of which the rights of nature form the very foundation. Because let's face it, everything comes from nature, including us. To put it bluntly, no nature, no people, no profits. The framework is backed by a study that we conducted together with two big Italian universities for a major European institution that represents civil society, the European Economic and Social Committee. We were given the question, can the rights of nature encompass all of the other rights? And that's the question I'll be answering for you today in this video. So let's start with the basics. Our legal system is designed around the assumption that we are separate from the rest of nature. But it's a scientific fact that we are a part of nature. We are part of the interconnected web of life. The rights of nature form the very foundation of our human right to life, because without nature, we cannot exist. It's from nature that all of our other rights and freedoms flow, like human rights, corporate rights, property rights. None of them can exist without a healthy and thriving planet. And yet, in our legal systems, we don't acknowledge this. And that's why we're in the mess that we're in today. Imagine our society is like an iceberg. What we usually see above the waterline are the crises: the health crisis, climate change, sixth mass extinction, food crisis, economic crisis, inequality, pandemics. But what we don't always see are the deep-rooted systems, the beliefs and the structures below the surface driving these crises. As we look deeper, we find systems that operate in silos, in isolation from each other, which in turn comes from a mechanistic paradigm that in turn is based on separation consciousness, which is encoded and cemented in law. And that's where the real problem lies. Under the surface, our systems operate in a degenerative cycle. It's a mindset of separation. We see nature as separate from us, something to be exploited, and this leads to systems that fragment and undermine the very source of life. Think about it. Economies based on infinite growth, farming practices that strip the earth bare, and energy systems that drain resources faster than they can regenerate, and worse yet, laws that make it legal to do all of this. Most of our societal solutions act on the symptoms above the waterline, which is actually the lowest point of leverage. At this level, it takes a huge amount of effort to manage crises, and we end up just firefighting. As soon as one crisis is resolved, another appears because the root causes are still left intact. So what we really need is a deep, lasting shift. And for that, we need to encode a new consciousness in law. We need laws that do more than just slow down the harm. We need laws that can reprogram the whole of society to actively scale up regeneration. Laws that protect nature as the very foundation of life. And as you're all aware, this is what the degenerative cycle results in, as we're firefighting, the Earth is changing. Planetary boundaries violations are escalating. With 6 boundaries already crossed, we are now well beyond the safe limits of human activity. When we push these boundaries too far, we risk triggering irreversible changes that can destabilize ecosystems, harm human well-being, and disrupt the very balance that supports all life on Earth. But the good news is that planetary boundary violations can be reversed, as we've experienced with ozone depletion. So how do we move forward? Well, it starts with a paradigm shift, transforming not just the system, but the way we see and interact with the world. It's about embodying the change both on a personal and on a societal level. So with nature's rights, we start at the very foundation with unity consciousness. That means seeing ourselves and our economies as a part of nature, embedded in this incredible web of life. Acting at the highest point of leverage, this relatively small change in the legal system of recognizing the rights of nature as the foundation of all other rights has a tremendous power to transform the entire iceberg. It leads us to a holistic paradigm where our systems work in harmony with nature, not against it, producing very different outcomes. Now, imagine integrating this approach into our legal systems, into every policy decision. Suddenly, we have a relational, ecological approach to lawmaking, and this reprograms the whole of society to produce regenerative results by design. If our society were a living being, law is like the DNA, the code by which it expresses. With the integrated rights framework, the laws themselves work to drive society to restore and sustain life. So what does this look like in practice? We've been talking about sustainability for decades, but there's a problem. There's no real legal framework to achieve it. Look at our current sustainability model, the 3Ps model of people, profit, and planet. The idea is that sustainability happens somewhere where these circles overlap. But this model is inherently flawed. It assumes that these 3 areas can function independently, but in reality, nature is the only one that can. The others need nature in order to exist. Now let's compare that to the nature's rights model, the 3 concentric circles. Here it's clear, the economy depends on people, and both the economy and people depend entirely on nature. It's a nested hierarchy of dependency, and from this comes a natural hierarchy of rights. Economic rights are a subsystem of human rights, and both economic and human rights depend entirely on nature's rights for their existence. Everything flows from nature. It's a relational model where the rights work in synergy to support each other, eliminating conflict. Compare that to the system that we have today, where human rights and corporate rights are often at odds with each other in an adversarial system of law, and nature's rights don't even exist. Also, human rights are only enforceable against governments, not corporations. Yet corporate rights? Well, they're enforceable against everyone. This is why we need to restructure and reframe our entire notion of rights, bringing us back into a state of right relationship with nature, a relationship that sustains life. Now, let's take the nature's rights model and make it 3-dimensional. When we do that, we can map the UN Sustainable Development Goals onto each circle. And when we add a 4th circle, the planetary boundaries, we have a comprehensive framework for implementation. This gives us a rights-based legal framework where human and economic rights are embedded within the rights of nature that aligns with both modern science and ancient wisdom, and with enforceable mechanisms to back it up. The UN Sustainable Development Goals and the planetary boundaries provide the metrics, whilst the integrated rights operate as a qualitative counterbalance against injustice that a piecemeal or reductionist approach could result in. But this isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It's about putting the right legal foundations in place so that society can move towards regeneration, adapting to each situation with legal innovation and more collaborative forms of dispute resolution. So why do we need this if we already have environmental law, you may ask? Well, environmental law operates in isolation to the other laws and policies that affect nature, like the laws and policies that affect the economy, agriculture, energy, and so on. It acts at the top of the iceberg to manage externalities, the worst effects of a destructive system, while leaving the system itself intact. By contrast, the integrated rights framework is all about fundamental rights. So it works at all levels of law, across all the key sectors that impact nature to address the root causes of destruction and to drive systemic change. In this way, it's the next evolutionary step in environmental law and something that will unite and strengthen all other initiatives to protect nature. If you're inspired by these ideas, or if you'd like to help us to drive things forward, we would love to hear from you. You can reach us at contact@naturesrights.org. If you'd like to get a closer look at these diagrams or get answers to frequently asked questions like how the framework enhances corporate ESG and CSR, why it's different to a law of ecocide or right to a healthy environment, and how it strengthens environmental law, then visit our website and download the framework guide. You'll also find lots of initiatives and workshops that you can join to become part of this transformational movement. Our future generations need you, so join us. Together, we can build a thriving future for all life on Earth.